Welcome. So, if you're studying to be an interpreter, you're stepping into a profession that's really been forged in the fire of history. We're going to trace the path of how every major challenge, from chaotic conferences to global pandemics, has pushed this field to innovate. And more importantly, what all that means for the career you're about to start. All right, let's kick things off with a problem that, even though it's from 1890, probably feels incredibly familiar. This isn't just a quote about a bad meeting. It's about how a simple misinterpretation could literally threaten international relations. When communication breaks down at this level, you're not just disturbing the harmony, you're talking about derailing history itself. So, all that chaos, it made one thing painfully clear. You couldn't just grab anyone who happened to be bilingual and throw them in the hot seat. The world had to move away from these informal, self-styled interpreters. What was needed was a class of professionals, formally trained, state-sanctioned. This was a shift from just knowing the words to guaranteeing trust and reliability when the stakes were highest. And you know what's wild is that this wasn't even a new idea. For centuries, the smartest leaders got it. They knew that solid diplomacy needed solid interpreters. You had France training their language children for 300 years. Empress Maria Theresa founded an entire academy for it. The goal, again and again, was always the same: create interpreters you could trust without a shadow of a doubt. But even with training, there were still some growing pains. I love this story from 1946. You have a senior ambassador who starts interpreting, but then he gets all wrapped up in the conversation himself. It's the perfect example of why the interpreter has to be a neutral channel, not another person in the debate. That clear line between diplomat and interpreter created a professional boundary that is absolutely vital for you to maintain in your own work. All right, so the foundations were laid. But then came the 20th century, and with it, war. And let me tell you, nothing lights a fire under innovation quite like global conflict. This is where the profession was really accelerated. So picture this. It's after World War I, you're at the Paris Peace Conference. The only real tool they have is consecutive interpreting. But just imagine, every single clause of the armistice being read, then interpreted again. It was a slog. I mean, agonizingly slow. A simple 5-minute speech could easily stretch to a half hour. It wasn't just an inconvenience. It was a massive bottleneck that was slowing down the entire peace process. So after World War II, this time problem absolutely had to be solved. And the war crimes tribunals, they basically became these incredible real-world laboratories. You had two totally different experiments happening at the same time. At Nuremberg, they took this huge gamble on brand new, unproven technology. Meanwhile, in Tokyo, they stuck with the old consecutive method, but they tried to perfect it by building this really complex 3-layer system of human quality control. And we all know how that gamble at Nuremberg paid off. It was a huge success. It's the moment simultaneous interpreting really burst onto the world stage and solved that critical time problem. But here's the kicker. While everyone thinks this technology was born at the trials, its real story actually started decades earlier. Yep, believe it or not, this was an IBM invention. It was kind of quietly tested at the League of Nations first, but this event right here, the International Labor Conference, way back in 1928, that was its real public debut. So while Nuremberg gets the credit for making it famous, this is where simultaneous really cut its teeth and proved it could work. But of course, not everyone was thrilled. The big-shot consecutive interpreters who were the stars of their day, they kind of hated it. I mean, this new machine was threatening their spotlight. They dismissed it as low quality, calling it a parrot-like exercise. It's such a classic story, isn't it? The old guard trying to fight off a disruptive new technology. We see that happen again and again. But you can't really fight the future. The technology was just too efficient, too effective to ignore. So in 1947, the United Nations made it official with this resolution. They made simultaneous interpretation a permanent service. And just like that, it became a cornerstone of modern diplomacy and, really, a cornerstone of the profession that you are training for right now. Okay, so now you've got this game-changing technology in place. What's the next logical step? Well, you have to actually teach people how to use it, and how to use it well. The profession needed a whole new infrastructure for training. And that's where universities came into the picture. Starting in the 1940s, there was this boom. All these new, dedicated interpreter training programs started popping up. Schools like these, from Geneva to Georgetown, are the ones that built the very academic foundation that your own training is built on today. Then, in 1953, another huge piece of the puzzle fell into place. The International Association of Conference Interpreters, or AIIC, was founded. And this was a really big deal. For the first time, interpreters had an organization to represent them, to protect their rights, and to fight for fair working conditions. It was a massive leap in professionalizing the entire field. You know that saying, history doesn't repeat itself, but it often rhymes? Well, get ready for a rhyme. That massive technological disruption that took us from consecutive to simultaneous, it's happening all over again. Only this time, the shift isn't from the floor to a booth. It's from the booth to the cloud. And the catalyst this time wasn't a world war. It was a global pandemic. COVID-19 created this massive, unprecedented proximity problem. An entire profession that was built on people being in the same room had to figure out how to work remotely. And they had to do it like overnight. And the solution was a sudden, massive explosion of remote interpreting platforms. All of a sudden, your most critical piece of equipment wasn't a soundproof booth, it was a stable internet connection and the right software. And poof, just like that, a whole new tech ecosystem was born that interpreters now need to master. You've got these highly specialized RSI platforms, but you've also got interpreting features being baked right into the video conferencing tools that we all use every single day. But all this convenience comes with a whole new set of challenges. And these are the challenges your generation of interpreters is going to have to navigate. We're talking about huge things like data security, but also really personal things, like the very real health risks of listening to compressed, shoddy audio for hours on end. Protecting your hearing, your most vital tool, is a completely different ballgame in this remote world. So when you look back from those chaotic conferences in the 19th century all the way to the global pandemic of the 21st, one thing is crystal clear. Your profession has always adapted to meet the moment. History shows us that challenges are what drive innovation. So now the question is, what's next? And what role are you going to play in writing the next chapter?